How's everyone doing? Yeah, there we go. That's better. That's better. That's better. That's good. We had a busy week this week. I had work was, all kinds of stuff going on. I got off late every day. Had a birthday party yesterday. My oldest daughter, she actually turned 9 on Father's Day this year. So we didn't have her party on Father's Day because we was afraid none of her friends would come, obviously, because it's Father's Day. So we pushed it back. So we had the party yesterday, and we had a great time, but everyone's exhausted. So anyway, how's your week been? All right, okay. You're obviously very tired or something. Yeah, it's been a hot week. It's been good though. Everything's been good. Today we're going to talk about a few things today. And a lot of it has to do with faith. I have gum. I'm going to get ripped for having gum in my mouth again. But I don't have anywhere to spit it out up here, so I'm not going to, just spit it out. So yeah, we're going to talk about faith. And I struggled with how to get into this because the experience I was going to share, it has to do with the Packers. And and I understand I'm in the wrong territory to be talking about, my Green Bay Packer experience. But have you ever, this is kind of hard, have you ever maybe you wasn't a fan of something until you got the behind the scenes look or you got an inside look of something, and then all of a sudden it kind of it sparks some interest, and all of a sudden, oh, now I kind of like that. Maybe you gain some understanding in it, and then all of a sudden you kind of like this. Do you know what I'm talking about? Does anybody relate to that? You know what I'm talking about? I don't know what that is for some people, but for me, I've always liked the Packers. I liked Brett Favre when I was young, and I don't know what it was. I liked the Packers. I liked their history. There's a lot of things that just kind of drew my attention to them. And I think it was 2011. I don't remember. One year it was the year that they won the Super Bowl, by the way. When's the last Super Bowl? Never mind. I don't want to start a fight this. Anyway, I got a chance to go to Green Bay, and me and a buddy, and we were actually working there, and we scored some tickets, and they were great seats. We were on the 30-yard line. We were right there. Matter of fact, the punter was doing something in one of the drills, and he kicked it and we caught it. We were close enough to catch it. The ball had bounced, and we caught it. They were just practicing on the sideline or whatever. We were right there, and so we got a real close look of everybody, and some of those guys are a lot bigger in person than what I expected. And Clay Matthews was one of my favorite guys, and that day that we were there, it was December. It was December the 19th, I think it was, and it was a Sunday. And the high that day was 13 degrees or 16 degrees, something like that. That was going to be the high. And we got there really early that morning, and because there was a lot of stuff, we wanted to see the stadium. We did this little tour thing, and we got to see some stuff and see the things around it. But the night before we were there was a big deal to me. We got there, and we checked into our hotel, and there was we were looking around for some places to eat, and the lady at the front desk, she's like, I highly recommend such and such place. She said, there's always a big crowd there. They'll have a band, and it's just always a real good time. They have really good food and all this stuff. And so okay, we'll go there. So we go, and we sit down, and it's they have these tables. They're long tables everywhere. So it didn't matter where you sit, you're sitting with other people. It's they don't have individual tables. Everything was just big long tables. So anyway, so we sit down, and it's early, and we're hanging out, and they've got stuff going on the screens and games and stuff going on, and we get to talking to these people there, and they found out that we're from Texas, near Dallas. And they were just blown away that we were there to go to a Packers game, that we were coming to see a Packers game, and that we were Packers fans. And all of a sudden, they treated us like we were royalty or something. Like everybody was coming around like, hey, y'all really from Texas? Y'all really from Texas? And everybody was talking, and I was like, dude, this is weird. Like, I didn't come to like talk to everybody. I just came to like sit here. Well, they were like, everybody in there was super nice to us. And all of a sudden, like, I felt like I was welcome here. Like, I felt like I wasn't just someone from Dallas. Like, they wanted me there, and they were excited to have me. And we had a great time. We had a blast, and we had people like explain to us, hey, when you go this way, do this, do it like that, go this way, go see this, make sure you go, and like they gave us all the inside, like the ins and outs of where to go and what to see and what to do. And does anybody know what I'm talking about? Does anybody relate to this, or am I just losing everybody? I relate to it. Okay. So we kind of got like the behind the scenes inside look to, some things that, if we would have just shown up at game time, we wouldn't have got to experience and wouldn't have got to see. And anyway, we went to the game, watched the game, and it was great. All that was good. But after that experience, like I really became like even more in depth. Like I care about that place. I care about that team. I care about it. Another experience I had was, I've always liked Stephen Furtick. I've always listened to Stephen Furtick. Anybody know who Stephen Furtick is? Okay, Elevation. He's one of my favorite preachers. And so when I took my trip, I went to Elevation Church. And I showed up not with any intention. I just wanted to see it. And I got there early and got to talking to a guy. I found out, oh wow, you came all the way from Texas to visit, visit Elevation, in Charlotte, and he was just blown away that I drove all the way up there to see it. And so like in a couple of hours, like I had seen the entire place. Like he took me and showed me everything on the property. I mean, I had seen everything, and I was blown away. Like all of a sudden, like I care about this place. Like this, I got like a behind the scenes, like an inside look. Like he showed that he cared about me, and so all of a sudden I cared about what they were doing and how they were doing it. Like I wanted to be a part of it all of a sudden. Like I was like, where do I sign up? Like I don't have a place to live or nothing, but like I want to be a part of this. Like this is cool. And we all have that experience. I don't like country music. I've always said, I don't know what I just can't get in. I just can't get into country music. I just can't. I don't know. And then I went and saw this country band play, and I was like, hey, it's not too bad. This is actually kind of fun. And we had a good time. We had fun. The band was all right. I still think our band could be a lot better than them. But, like their guy that was playing their leads and stuff, I'm like, man, Jeremy could smoke that guy. I mean, this dude, he don't have nothing on Jeremy. Like, and I see that stuff all the time. And I always give Jeremy a hard time. He's not here today to defend himself, so we're going to pick on him a little bit more. No, I'm just kidding. I doubt he'll ever watch. But you know who Jeremy is? You know what I'm talking about? Like, he stands over here. He don't hardly say a whole lot, but he can play the guitar like, I mean, I can't say like what. Like, I mean, he can, I mean, like, I don't know what. Like, he's just really good. And I kind of envy that talent a little bit. Like, I wish I could do that and stuff. Anyway, I don't know. You have that experience. When you get on the inside of something, you all of a sudden have a different perspective, a little bit different view, and maybe you care about it a little bit more. That's a long intro for where I'm going today. Anyway, today we're going to be in John chapter 2. Let's just go ahead and get to it. And I'm going to point out some things, but we're going to be talking about faith, and we're going to be talking about our capacity, and we're going to be talking about giving and what we have to give and what we can give and what we can't give and stuff like that. And I'm not just talking about tithing and money. I'm talking about our talents and our effort and our time also. So we're going to kind of cover a lot of different things here. And but I'm going to read. We're going to be in John chapter 2 here. And I'm in the English Standard Version because there's a specific verse in here that's worded a little bit different that caught my attention this time. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So if anybody or everybody is at John chapter 2. Is that me? My heartbeat, probably. My heart racing. What's going on? Why is it doing that? It's weird. Anyway, all right. John chapter 2 says, on the third day there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the wedding with his disciples. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine. And Jesus said to her, woman, what does that have to do with me? My hour has not yet come. His mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. That's going to distract me for the rest of the... What is that? Why is it doing that? The floor? Huh. I was thinking my goatee was hitting it, but I forgot I shaved it this week, so. All right, anyway. So we're going to stop there. We're going to talk about something. First of all, I think it's funny that Mary is the one that told the servants, do whatever he tells you. And so, I put myself in this story, and, if I was the servant, and Mary was telling me, do whatever he told you, there's something here. I'm going to back up just a second. They have no wine, and Jesus said to her, woman, what does that have to do with me? My hour has not yet come. His mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. Now there were 6 stone water jars there for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with the water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, now draw some water and take it to the master of the feast. So they took it. When the master of the feast tasted the water, now become wine, and did not know where it had come from, though the servants that drew the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, everyone serves the good wine first, and then when people are too drunk to know, then they serve the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now. And then, of course, this was the first miracle or whatever that Jesus did. We're not going to get into that. But and I started thinking to the servant, at the servants at this time, when they had to carry the jar, what were they thinking? What was going through their mind? And I find it interesting because Mary is the one that told them to do whatever he said, because at one time, Mary was told she may have to carry something that she didn't quite understand. And so, because I feel is my battery going dead? Is that what this is? Okay. Sorry. I'm going to be distracted. I'm sorry. Anyway, if I was a servant and all of a sudden I'm having to, fill these jars and everything, I would be, what is really going through their head? What is really going on? And I found it interesting that Mary was the one that told them to do whatever Jesus said, that pointed out, do whatever he said. They're called servants for a reason. I feel like they would, but I think it's cool that Mary's the one that said it, because at one time, an angel appeared to Mary and said, you're going to carry something. You don't quite understand it. It's not completely of you, but you're going to carry this because God's not about working for you, but through you. And I thought that was really cool. And so anyway, and a lot of times we get caught up with what we want God to do for us, and we forget about what God may be trying to do through us. And that's really important in our walk and in our faith, because we want miracles and we want things transformed and changed. We want our marriage saved and our finances saved, and we want our relationships saved right then. We want a new job right now. We want all that stuff right now. But we forget about the lessons that maybe God's trying to show us, or the path that He's trying to take us in order to grow us or teach us for what may be coming later on. We may not be ready to take on what we want right now. Be careful what you wish for sometimes. You know what I mean? You hear that. Like, be careful what you pray for sometimes, because when you get it, if you haven't been quite paying attention, you may get overwhelmed and bombarded, or you may feel that way. So, anyway, I thought that was cool. So, it's, let me back up here. It says, now there were 6 stone water jars, and each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And that's what I want to teach from today. They filled them up to the brim. See, a lot of times we hear God speak to us. We know God tells us to do something. This one example I got, like when I used to work in Irving, I would drive through downtown all the time, and I was coming up, and I was in traffic, and I seen this guy standing on the side of the road on up, and he was asking for money and stuff, and I heard very clearly God say, give him your 20. And I think I only had like $25 in cash. I had a 20 and a 5. I remember specifically pulling out and had a 20 and a 5. And I thought, I'm not giving him my 20. I need this 20. I'll give him the 5. And so I got the 20 and I put it back in my pocket, and I folded the 5 up and I set it in my cup holder. And when I got up there, I reached over and I pulled the 5 out and I handed it to him. Got going down the road, got ready to, I was going to stop and get me something to eat, and pulled the 20 out, and I realized that I had actually given the 20 and not the 5. So I went back to get my money back. No. But that's what we do. God tells us to do something, and we're like, all right, I'll give it the 5. I won't give it the, I don't want it, but I need the 20. Like, I was hungry too. And so and I figured he's probably just going to go buy booze with it. But maybe it's not about him. Maybe it was about me, whether or not I was going to do what God told me to do to begin with. And we do it all the time. I'm guilty at doing it with the tithe. I remember sitting in the seat and like, man, I've only got $100 this week. I'm not giving it because I got to live somehow. And one of my favorite stories is from Chance. Did he not? Is he out? And if you've ever heard that story that Chance told, like I should have prepared him for it to get him to talk about that. But like, he gave his last $50 to someone, and he had to call and tell you, like, I just had to give my last $50 away. God told me to give it away, and he didn't know how he was gonna, he didn't know how he was gonna make it, how he was gonna eat, how he was gonna feed his kids. And then they get here, and there's an envelope with his name on it, and how much did it have in it? It's $500. That's pretty awesome. Sometimes God will work through things like through your obedience. But a lot of times we get frustrated because God doesn't show up the way we want it to. It's because we're giving him the 5 and not the 20. See, we want to give him the 5 and God still give us the reward. But it doesn't work that way a lot. But see, who gives more? The person that has the ability to give 100 that gives 10, or the person that has 20 and gives 10? Who gave more? See, it's about, we are good about measuring ourselves with other people and what we can give and what we can't give. And God doesn't do that. God measures us by our own individual capacity. Even your talents. And that's what I'm going to point out here. When they filled the jars, they filled it to the brim. there's something there. They filled it to the brim. It's not how big the cup is, but it's about how full you fill it. It's about how full you fill it. When you're given something, how much do you really put into it? Like, I fail some weeks because I don't prepare the way I need to prepare for Sunday morning. And then sometimes I prepare too much, and then I get up here and I get too distracted, and I get messed up, and I get off course, and I can't follow my notes because I've got so much stuff jotted down that I get all sidetracked, and it makes it worse. And sometimes I simply forget to just listen to God and let Him guide me. Because if I don't have it wrapped up in my hands, and I don't have full control over it, I'll panic. And see, and if we hold on to what's ours, and we don't let God have the control over it, we'll never see the blessing from it. A lot of times we want to hold on to that, whatever it is, that 20. And sometimes it doesn't matter. We want to hold on to that 20, but when we're not paying attention, we give it away anyway. Because God's trying to show you something, and sometimes you don't have a choice. How many of you have known me for a while, and how many of you don't really know who I am, if you don't mind? If you don't know really me, okay, don't know. I was going to share a little bit about my story because I don't feel like a lot of people know me. And I've been feeling this, I felt like I need to share who I am and where I come from. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to. And so God's been telling me, yeah, you need to do this. And I've been telling God, no, I don't want everybody to know who I am. I don't want everybody to know where I came from. I don't want to. And plus, there's some people that's already heard it anyway, so there's no need. That's my conversation. I grew up in a small town, Grand Saline. Explains a lot, I know. I grew up and I had great parents. I don't want to say I was sheltered, but I had strict parents. I knew what I could and couldn't get away with, and I didn't try to get away with anything extra. My brother, on the other hand, he liked to flirt with death. I didn't. Because I experienced the belt a few times, and it didn't take a whole lot to understand that when they said no, that meant, no, don't do that. It's good for my safety. To not do what they told me not to do. So I had good parents. I did pretty good in school. I passed and stuff. But I was a pretty good kid. I didn't get into a whole lot of trouble. I went to church and grew up in the youth group and everything. And as I graduated, or my senior year, I met Erin and we started dating or whatever and hanging out. And after I graduated, I started working with a church with the youth. And shortly after that, Erin graduated, and then we got married, and then we worked with the youth together in this church. And we had a blast working with the kids and working with the youth. And there were some things that went on behind the scenes in the church. And some other things that took place along the way, and I left the church and I said I'd never go back. And so we left. We moved out of Grand Saline and we moved to Mesquite, and we lived there for a long time after that. And we had been out of the church for a little while, not very long, and we decided we would go visit some churches around. We felt like we would try to go back. And so we went and visited this church, and we get there, and I didn't like to sit in the back because I get distracted by watching everybody else. So I always have to sit fairly close That way I can focus my attention on what is really going on. And so we get there a little early, and we go and we find us a seat that was kind of close to the front, but it was on the side. And we had a gentleman walk up and ask us if we could move to the back because these rows were reserved for the members. And sure, man, no problem. So I got up, grabbed my stuff, and we left. No problem. I didn't mind I didn't mind moving all the way to the back, out the door, into the car, and down the road to whatever restaurant we went ahead and went to, and we had lunch early. I didn't have a problem with it. So we had a few instances with, kind of like that, and where I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel wanted. So what was the point? What was the point? So I remember making a statement, I'll never set foot back in the church. If I do, it will not be to get involved. I'll never get involved. I can guarantee you I'll never get involved in another church. It works really well. Never say never. That's my best advice. Never say never. So anyway, we about that time, we started going out, hanging out. I got into drinking a lot, partying. I had a band, and we would play it on the weekends, different clubs and stuff, and different places. And that was life to me. I loved that. And I felt welcome, and I felt friends. I felt wanted. I felt excitement. I felt life, or what I thought, what it appeared as life. And so that's what I did. I played music, and I drank, and sometime the next morning go home. That's what I did. And then it started from Friday and Saturday night to where it went from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. And then I bought a motorcycle, and it became every night. So if it wasn't playing music at the bars, it was riding around town, bar hopping and whatnot. Anyway, long story short, we had our first child, and so then Erin, she had quit drinking and everything, and she was staying home, but I was still trying to party and everything. And anyway, one night I had an experience on my bike, and I finally realized, look, this is enough. Like, I can't keep doing this. I have a child. I have a family that needs me. It's not going to do me any good to be dead on the side of the road. And so anyway, I sold the bike, got rid of that, and started trying to live a little bit different. But I was miserable. Like, I wasn't going to church or anything, but I was still drinking, but I wasn't hanging out with some of the same friends, and I was just hanging out at home. And I had this job, and there was a drive-through beer store that I used to pass, and every day on my way home, I would get a 24-pack every day. And I would have part of it drank before I even got home, and then by the time it was time to go to bed, most of it was gone. And so every day I would stop, and I would just drink every day. That's all I knew to do. And I would just hang out at home with the family. And so anyway, I had pretty much drank all of our money away because I had a great job. We had a really nice house. We both had new vehicles, and everything was going really good. Everything looked great from the outside, but on the inside, I was about as dead as anyone could possibly be, other than actually dead. I was as dead on the inside as someone could be. I didn't have feelings. I didn't have emotions. I didn't have anything. And anyway, we were up against losing stuff, and so finally we started selling. We moved down here. We got a lot cheaper house and van. Moved a van. Had our second kid, and things started going a little bit better. We weren't so financially strapped, and life got a little bit better. And anyway, I was still drinking, and I'd started getting sick. I started getting every evening I would get sick, where I'm talking about throwing up sick, like I was sick. And I was having to call into work the next day, like I didn't understand what was going on. I mean, I wasn't hungover. I was just getting sick, and I didn't understand what was going on. So I kept getting sick, and it got to the point where I couldn't drink, because I would drink, I would pick up my beer usually around the Mesquite area. I don't think that place is even there anymore. I don't remember. I'm not sure. But anyway, where I used to pick up the beer every day, I would drive all the way down 20 to Van, and by the time I got home, I'd have a lot of that drank before I even got home. And I wasn't drunk. I was just drinking it. I don't know. And I mean, it's an everyday deal, And we would usually eat or whatever. And about 8 o'clock, 8 or 9 o'clock, I would get sick. Like, I would get big time sick. And then there was a few days I had to call in sick to work. And I don't call in sick to work. I don't. Like I got to work. I need that money. And anyway, it got to where I started cutting back on the beer because I was getting sick, more and more sick, to the point like I couldn't drink because I was sick all the time. And so I quit drinking, and finally I was like, you know what? I don't know. Like I remember the night I had like 2 beers. I had cut back, from 24 to 2. And I had like 2, and I still got sick that evening, like big time. And I was like, you know what, forget this. Like I started getting like really fearful that there was something seriously wrong with me. And so there was a lot of fear going on. I started getting scared. And and anyway, I wanted to drink, but I felt like I couldn't because I kind of started putting it together like maybe it's the beer that's making me sick. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm allergic to it or something. I mean, but I've been drinking for all this time. Like, why is it all of a sudden now making me sick? And so I quit. I quit drinking. I didn't want to quit drinking. But I quit drinking, at least during the week. Because I had to make it through the week. And then on the weekend, I would always make sure I drank something, but I would always get sick. And finally, I was like, I don't know, I just quit. I can't keep being sick. So I just quit buying it. And I had some that sat in the refrigerator for a while. About that time, I had been hounded enough to come to church. So I finally came, and I remember I sat in the back, and because I remember those words. Actually, Erin and some of her family came here, and then she came back and she was telling me, oh, you'd really like it. I mean, they've got like a band. I said, I didn't care. I said, I'll go. And I finally said, I'll go, but I'm not getting involved in nothing. I'm not. Yeah. And so I came and I sat in the back, and I just didn't really care what went on. And but there was this dude up here that was playing the guitar, and man, he was good, and the band was good, and the music was loud, and all of a sudden I got a taste of that environment that I knew I belonged in. Like, because this is what I did on the weekend, but it wasn't in church. This is what I want to do. And something about this guy that stood, I remember because he was standing on this side, and they had like this beach theme or something, I don't remember. It looked like, I don't remember, I don't even know how to describe it. And his name was Joseph. And he stood right over here, and there was something about this guy that just caught my attention. And I never really talked to him a whole lot. I talked to him a few times, but like something about just him playing in here as good as he was, like, it caught my attention. And so the next week I wanted to come back because I wanted to hear him. And it kind of grew from there because I wanted to hear this guy play. Like, he was good. And so I started coming back, and I started feeling some life. I started experiencing some things. And one weekend, I was at home, and Erin had went out of town with some of her family or something. And I remember I was sitting on the floor. I was watching something on TV, and I just remembered, like, all of a sudden, God kept trying to say, like, why are you denying me? Like, why? Why? And, like, I don't know what happened, But I got up after that. I was laying out on the floor. I don't know how long I was on the floor, but when I got up, there was something different. And I went to the refrigerator and I threw away bottles of liquor. I threw away my beer. I threw away all kinds of stuff. I threw away everything that had anything to do with anything that wasn't of God. Like, I mean, our trash can was full of junk, all kinds of stuff. And I got rid of my instruments. I sold my guitars, amps. I sold all of it. I got rid of everything. Because in my mind, I couldn't do that right now and serve God. Because if I got right back on it, guess what? It was going to be right back to the bar. And so I separated myself from everything. And I remember calling Erin and telling Erin about it. And it was like, almost like she didn't believe me. And but that day, my life changed. And God got a hold of me. And I started coming here, and like, I think we started sitting closer and closer each week. And I'd been going here for a little while, I don't remember how long. And I remember my phone rang one day, and I didn't recognize the number, and I didn't answer. And then I got a text, and I think it said, "This is Celia, can you give me a call?" I was like, "Why is she? What now?" So I called her, and she's like, "Hey," she's like, "I've been praying about this. I've got this feeling. We need a bass player. Do you think you could fill in and play bass for us?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. You don't want me on your stage. You don't want me playing." Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, I ended up playing. I came up here and I started playing. And all of a sudden, like, I felt life start to take off. Like, I felt life. I got in here and I got involved. And next thing you know, Chris Wilson had me working in the nursery, and like, I was doing all kinds of stuff. And like, it didn't matter. Like, he was always telling me, hey, I need you to do this. Hey, won't you do this for me? I think you'd be good at this. Why don't you do this? And I was like, I don't want to be in the nursery, man. I don't want to do that. But I did it. Me and Erin, we would serve in the nursery, and we would serve in wherever it was that Chris needed us to serve that weekend. And then I would play and get done, and I'd go in the nursery or wherever, and we would always be there. We were here every weekend. Well, not long after I started serving, I was with some of her family, and her aunt and her mom told me, she's like, we weren't going to tell you this, but we got together and started praying that your body would reject the alcohol that you had been drinking. So the whole time I had been getting sick was God working this, whatever you want to call it, where my body started rejecting. And the more I drank, the sicker I got. And the less I drank, the less sick I got. But I didn't figure that out. It took me a long time to figure that out. Because I had a group of people behind the scenes praying for me. Praying that, and I think they had, I don't remember, there was more people involved than just them, and I don't remember if there was a group from here or not, but I know they were going to church here, but there was a group of people that cared about my well-being. And so they got together with God and prayed that my body would start rejecting this alcohol. And that's exactly what happened. And when she told me that, like, I got chills. And it freaked me out a little bit. Because that was the first time I realized, like, there's actually some power in this whole God thing. Like, it wasn't just some miraculous, like, magic trick, but all of a sudden I changed my mind and didn't want to do this anymore. Like, there was something more behind it. There was something bigger. And see, sometimes we want everything to change right then. But see, it took months and months of me having to sit through there every weekend, every week, every night, being sick. I had to go through this series, or whatever you want to call it, of like death. Like, I felt dead. I knew it. I didn't know it, but I felt dead. Like, and so I was drinking, and I was dying, and then I realized, like, maybe if I don't drink so much tonight, I won't get so sick. And then I started kind of reversing the process. And all of a sudden, I put it together. I figured it out. There's more to the whole God thing. And then when you actually step in and get involved, you get behind the scenes, you get to see a little bit more sometimes. Then when you get to take part, see, there's this one last part I want to touch on today, and I took a little bit longer telling that than what I want to. I'm going to skip down right here. Draw some out and take it to the master. You know, it never actually says when the water turned to wine. And so I started thinking, did it turn to wine? When did it turn to wine? And I feel like if the writer wanted me to know specifically when it turned to wine, that he would have told me. But something made sense to me this week that never made sense before. I don't think it turned to wine all of a sudden. I don't think it all of a sudden turned to wine. I think with each step in obedience that those servants took, that it slowly turned. And every time, every step they got closer to serving it, that water turned to wine. I think they were sitting here walking, and they're like, dude, is this me or is this water starting to look funky? What's up with this water? What's going on? See, sometimes you may be called to carry something that you don't understand. And I think it's very interesting that Mary's the one that told the servants to do whatever Jesus said. Because she knew what it meant to carry something that she didn't understand. And now these servants are carrying something, and with each step in obedience that they're doing, each step of faith, each step of obedience, of doing what they're doing in faith, all of a sudden this water started turning to wine. It didn't turn instantly, it turned with each step. And as they got there and they served it, they all of a sudden got a glimpse of that power, that real power, that godly power, that power that you hear about or think about or talk about or whatever. No, they got to experience it. Guess what? Everybody else in the party, they just knew it was good wine. But it's the ones who served that knew what actually took place. Those people that were praying for me, they were serving God. They were serving me. They were serving a calling from God. They got together. They knew that I was in trouble, and they got together. They didn't come and try to convince me that I needed to quit drinking. They didn't come and make me go to some, program. They didn't come and, steal all my stuff out of the refrigerator. They just got behind the scenes. They got together, and they started praying with intent. They started praying with authority. They started praying because they cared. They started praying because they had a heart that God had given them, a servant's heart. They didn't try to convince me. Not one time did they try to convince me. They tried to talk me into coming to church a few times. But not one time did they try to convince me that I needed to quit drinking. They got together and they prayed. They went to God over it. And they let God take care of the situation. They didn't get their hands all dirty. They didn't come and try to get their hands around my throat or whatever. They kept their hands out of it, and they let God have his hands in it. And we get it backwards all the time. We want to have our hands in it. And we want to see it. We want to see things. We want to see magic genie Jesus work like on our terms. Yeah. That's what we want. But through my experience, that's not how God works. He's going to take you through a process. And a lot of times it's a process you don't want to take. I didn't like getting sick. There was no point I said, you know what, this is kind of cool. At no point in that process did I say, I like this. I didn't like it. And I wasn't willing to change anything. It took me being tired of being sick, of being dead, before I actually started making some changes. It took me changing my mind. It took me changing my mind, not them changing my mind. It took me deciding, you know what? Man, I sick all night, half the morning, I don't think I'm going to drink anything today. And then all of a sudden I realized there was this pattern. Man, when I don't drink as much, I don't get sick. Man, when I didn't drink yesterday, I didn't get sick last night. Whoa. So it's not just about having our hands in things. It's about serving and sometimes getting behind the scenes. There's so much here. I'm out of time. There's so much here. This is like an introduction to the next couple of weeks, I guess you could say. I don't know how to say it, but like there's more to this water turned to wine thing. There's more to just serving in the kids department. Is Julie in here? Okay, I didn't know if they were in here this week or back there. Like, I don't know, how many of you have kids in Stephen and Julie's class? Like, they're not just there to babysit. They're not just there to, like, because they don't want to be in here. They're not, like, these people love your kids. Like, they're there because they have a calling. They're there because they love your kids. I mean, I've seen these two people in tears over your kids because they love your kids. They care about your kids. They're not just in it to fill a position. They're in it because they care and they love and they're called. They love your kids. And it's when you get on that servant side, you see things take place that not everybody else sees. And there's so much there. There's so much power there. There's so much life there. We could sit in here and talk about it all day long, but it's when we get in it, that's when we really see it. When we get in it, when we get behind the scenes, when we get involved, when we get invested, that's when we really see it. There's people in here that have put their money, their last few dollars in the offering plate, don't know how they're going to eat lunch, and guess what? God comes through because they had the faith to do what God was telling them to do. If Joseph wouldn't have been up here using his talents, I would have never locked in. I would have stood here and listened to the band like whatever and went home. But Joseph was using his talents the way God told him to use his talents, and it changed my life. I didn't say a word to him. He didn't say a word to me. But I know now that if he wouldn't have been doing what God told him to do at that point, that time, he would have either used someone else or I would have walked in and I would have walked out and nothing would have ever changed. Nothing would have ever happened. Some of you have talents. Some of you have abilities that you're not being a good steward of. Some of us have talents and abilities. It's not just about how much money you can give, but how much effort, how much time. How much are you really willing to give? If Ricky didn't come up here and mow the yard, we would have a jungle to walk through to get in here. We'd be fighting bears and snakes and all kinds of stuff. I don't know about bears, but the grass grows tall and it grows fast, especially with all the rain we're getting. But thank goodness we have somebody that's willing to come up here and beat the heat and mow and take care of something so that you can come in here without having to step over snakes and stuff. Yeah, thanks, man. You know, Howard comes up here and he's like, in Brandis, they clean the bathrooms and the halls and stuff, and like, you know, I like having a clean bathroom. It's not bad. I've been to some places where I just wait. I'll be all right. Yeah. We all have something to give. And we want to see blessing, but we're not willing to give. We're not willing to give what God gave us to give. We want to hold on to it. And in the weeks to come, in the next few weeks, we're going to talk about this. And if you don't know, like this is a brand new church. Like I'm brand new at this. I'm not a professional. I don't have practice at this, okay? This is Driven Life, and it's been going for a while. And there's some things that it's built on, and that's not going to change. But like, there's a new band. I'm not Todd. I'm not Chris. So there's some new things going on, and we're in this rebuilding process. Not really a rebuilding. We're in a new building process. Like this is new. And here you are. So, man, it's quiet in here. So like, I can't do everything. Samantha can't do everything. Stephen and Julie can't do everything. We need you. We want you. And this is our building moment. This is our time to follow what God's telling us to do and build a church and build a community on what God is telling us to do. And we can see people in the community, our friends and our families, set free from things that we were set free from, or we want to be set free from God. And that's what it's all about. And see, when you get on the inside of that and you get to see some things take place and people set free, man, it's cool. It's cool. I remember when we first started the Blue Room and Seventh Day Slumber came and played, and I remember Chance being up here. I didn't know Chance. He just wore a cowboy hat. That's all I knew. He's the only one in the church that would wear a cowboy hat. And I remember that night. You remember that night, Chance? Right here. Yeah, they had fire in here. It's crazy. What happened that night, Chance? Set free. Because a group of people followed the calling of God. And the Blue Room might have been for that one night. That whole thing may have been designed for that one night so Chance could be set free. It may not have been for all the other nights. All the other might have just been there. See, there's things you do, there's things we do, there's things when we listen and we follow God and we do it, there's a result. I don't know what else to say about that. We can give or we can hold it to ourselves. I'm not talking about just money. Money's a big part of it. If you don't give, we don't pay bills, we don't pay the taxes, or not taxes, property, stuff. We don't pay the stuff that we need. We don't keep the lights on or the air on. You know. So it's all important, but your abilities are just as important. We all have something to give. We all have things to give. It's when we give, it's when we get. We experience someone when we're around and you get to experience someone's life change, that's huge. That's huge. So anyway, what do you have that you can give? What do you have? And are you giving? Are you filling all the way up? Are you giving what you're really supposed to be giving? I'm guilty of not giving everything, giving it my all sometimes. I'm guilty. But guess what? We got tomorrow. And we can start over. And we can start giving a little bit more, putting a little bit more effort into things. You know what? It may be, you know what? Someone in here may be great at building a website. We don't have a website. Someone in here may be great at decorating. I'm terrible at decorating. I don't have any idea. I can give you ideas, but as far as putting it together, terrible. Terrible at it. That's just not my ability. I can sit up here and we can fight and cuss and whatever over a song and we can get it worked out. I can picture a song and I can put it together. We can work it out. I can put some blood, sweat, and tears into putting a song together. I'm not good at painting. I'm not good at drawing. I'm not good at any of the other stuff. But see, you're good at something else that I'm not good at. We've got people in here every week that are good at something that someone else isn't. And if we start putting all of our abilities together and all of our efforts together, we can serve God in a way that we've never served before. And that's it. That's all I got for you.